And one. Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. Each week we try to find experts in the field that they're in. Today is no exception. We're going to take a really fun angle today, and we're going to unpack with two co-founders of Wallace Academy on how they started. We get so many people asking us, I want to start my business. I don't know how. What's my first step? Do I do it alone? Do I do it with a partner? There's all these unknowns. So I'm like, you know what? We're going to find two people that have done it and are doing it. So I am honored to be hanging out with Dana Fair and Rabia Perezic. How are you ladies today?
We're doing good. Thank you,
Good,
Dave.
good.
Awesome. Well, super excited. So fill in the listener, if you can, around the world right now and tell them about Wallace Academy. What is going on at Wallace Academy?
Okay, I can take us off with that. So, Wallace Academy is a private therapeutic day school. We specialize in supporting students with school refusal and school anxiety. We serve middle school and high school students with IEPs. Our program is unique in that we have three parts of our program. We have the brick and mortar, so students come in all day, every day. Then we have remote programming, which students are remote learning, and then we conduct home visits and community visits to offer that academic and therapeutic support in person. And then we have a blended model for students that are reintegrating into our school setting and they're building tolerance for that.
Oh,
We have, yeah,
yep, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say we have really great outcomes with reintegrating our students both into our home school as well as to their home district.
And that seems so intentional. I mean, was that the idea from the start? Because again, as we're unpacking this today, a lot of people, they might have like a vague idea of what they want to do or sell or create. They have this kind of vague idea. That sounds very intentional. Did you guys start out that way? Or did that kind of develop over time as you created the Wallace Academy?
Yeah, I mean, this field of special education is so broad, right? And you can go into so many different areas within that. And I think
Yeah.
for us, we were able to have experience with different populations of learners. And we just really fell in love with this population of students that really struggles to attend school. And the common denominator for our students is that school anxiety piece. And I think we've both seen a lot of success in terms of tackling some of these more challenging cases. So over the years, I think we developed this specialty area. And you're right, Dave,
Sure.
it was very intentional. When we
Yeah.
developed the school, we really sat down and talked about like, what does our student look like,
Yeah.
right? Like, what does a
Yeah.
Wallace Academy student look like?
Well, and that's a really good place to start because for the people listening, if you're thinking about a venture on your own, for these ladies, they started thinking about, their students, but that kind of translates in a business to what does your customer look like? Did you guys do a pretty deep dive on what your ideal student look like? Where they live, their income, their learning ability. Did you do a deep dive before you launched the Wallace Academy, or was it something that kind of, again, developed over time?
Yes, I would definitely say so. And it's not so much more where they live. I mean, they do need to live within an hour radius of where we're
Okay,
located. But it
sure.
was more about, really what they're presenting with, which is the school refusal and school anxiety. And what we've seen is that affects so many different cultures and socioeconomic status. It really does not,
It doesn't discriminate.
yeah, exactly.
Wow. And again, from the start, were you thinking broad will help anybody? I just remember when I started Positive Polarity after I sold my last company, I would do anything for anybody. You kind of start with this, oh my gosh, I don't have any money coming in. I don't have any, customers. So anything that people will ask me to do, I would do. Were you broad and then you started to narrow down, or did you guys always think that you were going to be pretty narrow in your niche?
I think we really have stayed true to serve the population that we set out to serve.
Awesome.
And we've had a
Okay.
lot of referrals, even early on,
Yeah.
for students that really didn't align with our population and our vision,
Yeah.
where we felt like a different school setting might be a better fit for them. So we always are coming back to like making those decisions that are really right for the student first, but then also that are, doing right by the business as well.
Yeah. And it seems like both of you have a past life in education. So it's interesting to kind of think about it as a business. Is it hard for you to kind of move that needle from thinking about it to helping a group of people to we have to think about it from a business. We have to make payroll. We have to make, enough money. We have to do all these things. Is it hard for you to transition from serving somebody to like it's a business and we're actually trying to make money at it?
I wouldn't say that it's hard. I would say in the beginning days, that was definitely an adjustment for us,
Sure,
but we
sure.
really do not like waver from our values, which is we do always put our students first. And
Okay.
so we're not making our business decisions, to stray away from that. Like that's really at the core of everything that we do. And that does also show in our business model.
Sure, which is awesome. And that was going to be one of my questions because, this is a partnership. You co-founded this together, so it has its definite advantages and it can have its definite challenges. And this is kind of my first question from a challenge perspective, is like you mentioned values, and I'm just curious, what happens if your values don't align? Now, obviously, student first. The listener can say customer first, but you know what? That might mean something different to me than it does to you. So, how have you guys kind of navigated that water when you two don't agree on something or your values don't align? And again, it's not a moral issue. It's just something that, it's preference. It's how you were raised. It's what you were taught. And I'm just curious for the listener, if you can expand on how you kind of make sure that your values do align at the end of the day.
I think it starts from day zero. I can
Okay.
honestly say that there has never been a moment where our values have not aligned. And we made
Okay.
sure of that when we really sat down and talked about opening a school together. Before we talked about the mission, the vision, the programmatic details, we really sat down and talked about the values because the values need
Yeah.
to have teeth in them, right? And so we thought through two major questions came up for us, like what can we never and will never waver on? And then the other question is, are we willing to part ways with someone if they're not in alignment with even one of those values? So
Yeah.
we have four values at Wallace Academy. The first is that students come 1st. The second is that we use narrative practices. The third is we care about our people. And then the fourth is that we advocate for students and we foster their self-advocacy skills. So
Wow.
those values, that's really what guides our work. I think
Okay.
because we have a unique situation where we worked together as a teacher therapist team for years,
Yeah.
we kind of already knew that we were in alignment. But I think
Sure.
really sitting down and having that crucial conversation of like laying it out very explicitly, like what are our values? And because we did that day zero, we really have never had a situation where we've disagreed on a values level.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've
Sure.
had situations where we're like, I want to take this approach or I want to take that approach, but
Yeah.
we always come back to those values. What's going to be best for the student? And that kind of answers our question and dissolves that disagreement, so to speak.
Well, that's really helpful. And for the listener, think about that because it's easy to have an idea, have a service opportunity, and just kind of take it and run with it without really, defining those values. And a lot of times, I think entrepreneurs and business owners think that I'll develop those as I go. I love the fact that you guys did it day zero because if you couldn't align, it would have been a real difficult challenge to move that forward. And I think that's what a lot of partnerships see today is they don't align, but yet they think, you know what, we'll deal with that later. So I love that piece. So thanks for sharing that. The other piece that's interesting is most businesses are out to grow, and you guys obviously want to grow. Are your growth strategies? I mean, you want as many students as possible. Are you limited to how many you can take? Kind of help us understand when you guys sat there day zero, aligned your vision or aligned your values, and now it's like, okay, how do we get our first student? How do we get our 10th or our 100th? What strategies for growth did you guys use? And I'd love to hear how you guys did that.
Yeah, so we are approved for 75 students,
Okay.
and that's really kind of the amount of students we can ever take. But for us, our growth strategy has really been around finding the right people. So we
Okay.
have never really, let that come to the expense of like, okay, we need to have this many students. It's really been about finding the right teachers, the right therapists, and the right program assistants. And that's really what has led our growth. We did have to, have a certain number of students, in order to function and in order to pay the bills, so
Sure.
to speak. But
Yep.
outside of that, it really has been about, finding the right people. And then that has really led our growth.
Wow. And is 75, sorry, I don't know the industry as well as you do. Is 75 a lot? Do you wish it was more? I mean, that because like for the average business owner listening, they're like, man, if the government, I'm assuming it's the government or some agency is telling me I can have 75. If we had to limit how many customers we could have, obviously it would take, like you're doing, is you take a really hard look at those 75. Is that 75 like can that ever expand if you wanted to?
It could if we opened another program or if we expanded the program.
Mhm.
But I
Okay.
think for Maria and I, something that sets us apart and that we really take pride in is we are very hands-on. I'm a very hands-on
Yes.
principal. She's a very hands-on clinical director. We could tell you, if you named any one of our students, we could tell you exactly what's going on with their case at any given moment.
Okay.
So I think in terms of expansion in that way, it really would compromise the involvement that we have
Yeah.
with all of
Sure.
our students at Wallace Academy. So I think in that sense, we've definitely found our sweet spot where we're able to have a good number of students, which in the world of therapeutic day schools, that's pretty average.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But also have that piece of like, we know what's going on with all of our students and all of our families at all times.
Wow, that's really awesome. For your values, I'm just curious because you talk about you have other people obviously on your staff and on your team. Do they know those four values as well? And is there an expectation that they align with your values?
We should talk about the fit interview.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is a really important thing for us, for
Okay.
our entire staff. Our entire interview process is really geared towards making sure that they are aligned values wise. So one of the things that we incorporated is a fit interview. It's the third step to our interview process, and
Okay.
it involves a hand selection of people in the department that the candidate is applying for. And it's really geared towards asking questions in a more casual setting to really get to know that candidate on a more personal level. So some of
And
those questions,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say some of those questions are silly, like or if you were an animal, who would you be and why? And then some of them are more purposeful, like tell me a time a coworker was mad at you. And it really has been one of the most impactful additions to our interview process because it allows our team to really get to know that person and see things that we may not see in our structured interview.
And
So
ultimately,
I
we're,
want to,
oh,
yeah, I
sorry,
want to
Danny.
ask, no, go ahead, Dan. I want to finish and then I want to ask which animals you guys are. So go ahead.
Well, that fit interview, it kind of the second round, we're as an admin team, we're looking for that values alignment, right? Like those
Yeah,
questions that we have curated around that, because technical skills can be taught. I'm not worried about if a teacher can make a lesson plan the way that I want to see it. I want to know, like, do you put students first, right? So
sure.
all of those questions are meant to really identify whether that candidate is values aligned. But that fit interview, that third round, it really ensures that they are, because admin is not present for that fit interview.
Okay.
It's only like if the candidate is a teacher, it's only a teacher team. It's like 4 or 5 teachers that I trust to tell me, whether or not they think that this person is
Sure.
values aligned. They'll give me a green, yellow, or red light. If they give me a red light, I'm not moving forward with that person. If they give
Okay.
me a yellow light, I might not even move forward. But if they give me a green light, on the flip side, what we see is
Sure.
someone that is 100% values aligned. And then also that the teacher team is really taking ownership over that person that's joining their team.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, Dana, fill me in. What animal did you align with where would you align with?
Well, I didn't go through the fit interview process. I haven't,
Uh-oh.
I haven't actually thought about this one. I would say a chameleon. I
Okay.
think I'm be adaptable. I work with so many different families and students and members of the community and staff, and I
Sure.
think that I am able to kind of adapt to whoever I'm working with and be a chameleon in that way.
I
It's
love it.
genuine.
I love it.
You
Yeah.
have to be
No, that's
job.
awesome. Well, and I love the fact that, a chameleon, you have a true color. A chameleon has a natural color, and then it can change into other colors based on who's in the room or whatever their surroundings are. So that's really powerful. Thanks for sharing that. Rabia, what about you? What animal would you, if you had to do the fit process in the interview process, what animal would you end up being?
That might be a different answer if I was in a fit interview, but I think at my core, I would say
Yeah.
a lion. I am
Okay.
strong, I am fierce, I am protective, but I also, like being in a pack and really
Sure.
like working in a community. So I think that's what I really resonate with the most.
That's awesome. And I think that, again, there's such a great power right there in having partnership because one person's strength, we'll call it, becomes another person's, weakness or it's something they're not as good at. So I think that, again, so many people listening are thinking about doing business on their own, and it can be very lonely. It can be very isolating. It can be really scary, especially if you are trying to do it yourself. Did you ladies have a mentor? Did you have someone helping you? How did you navigate some of these business decisions that you may never have had to consider before?
I think mentors are so important, and we do have a few mentors in our lives that really started out being mentors in the field. But I think their primary purpose was to really just encourage us and instill that confidence in us. I think
Yeah,
all of the other pieces, like on the business side of things, we really did have to figure out on our own. And I think in
yeah.
terms of business, you just have to wear so many hats and be as resourceful as you can be, because no one's going to give you the answers. No one's going to lay out black and white. This is the step by step, play by play, right? So our
If only
mentors have,
they would, right? Wouldn't that be awesome if there was a 5 step, everybody's looking for that 5 step or pick the number of steps, to X. And it's really your journey was completely different than mine. Probably your individual journeys were somewhat different as well. So I love that piece. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to unpack the culture that you have because obviously for people listening, entrepreneurs don't want to stay solopreneurs forever. They want to eventually, most of them, build and expand. And so I want to unpack that with you ladies. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. I am honored to be hanging out with two co-founders of Wallace Academy. And I have to say the names one more time because Dana Fair, super easy. I've been practicing Rabia's name forever, so I think I got it, but it's Rabije Perezic. And both ladies have co-founded Wallace Academy. And again, it's an honor to be here. And we are talking about their journey specifically on what starting and co-founding look like because again so many people stand by the edge of the water and they just look at it. They don't even put their foot in the water. They don't even jump in. They're just afraid. They're just unsure. And again, it's so refreshing to see both of you jump in with both feet and be successful at this. So I love that piece. How long? So we'll go back to the beginning, so to speak. How long did it take you before you hired people, or did you hire right away? How did you kind of? That must have been a scary day of, oh my gosh, we got to hire somebody. Was that fun? I guess I shouldn't assume that. Was it fun, or was that pretty scary that first day of remembering you're going to have to hire somebody?
I would say, I mean, it's definitely fun. Like, we've always looked at things like we're dreaming, right? So, like, we're thinking about, like, what do we really want this to look like? Like, what kind of
Sure.
teachers and therapists? And so it was definitely fun. I think when things got scary, it was like when we opened and, we were kind of going through the motions and, trying to get student referrals and like those beginning of the days when things weren't like completely stable just yet. It was a
Yeah.
very short window, we were very grateful and lucky for that. But it was really exciting hiring on our first staff. And we were not able to really open our doors or really even get approved without having teachers on our roster. So,
Okay. So did you have teachers before you had students?
yes.
we did before we even had it, actually.
Yeah.
We did our first interviews at a Panera. So we
Okay.
joke about it now with those starting staff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did not have a building yet, and we were doing interviews at Panera.
Wow. And they must have totally took I mean, they had to buy into your values, like, because you're painting a picture that doesn't exist. It's not like you're,
Right.
hiring a replacement that, is part of a 10 or 20-year program. This is at Panera, no building, no students, just an idea, which again is obviously powerful enough to turn into success for both of you. So I love that piece. But so both of you were excited about it. I mean, Rabia said she was excited. Dana, were you excited? Was there any fear of like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I doing? Or did that just not enter into your brain?
I think you get pangs of like, oh my gosh, we're hiring someone and they're locked in for the year, especially in the teacher
Yeah,
side. It's like
yeah,
once you're locked in for the year, that's it. For that year. So I think there's those little pangs, but I think when
yeah,
you are so connected to that mission, that dissolves it when you have that connection to the mission. And then also having a partner is really
Yeah.
encouraging because in those moments, I think we really do a nice job of encouraging each other and
Yes.
just
yeah.
reminding each other of the greater vision and that we're going to make this happen. There's really no other option.
That is so powerful to have somebody on your bench that is on your side, your cheerleader, so to speak, and you're cheerleading for each other because I know, again, a lot of solopreneurs that do this, they try to do this on their own. They don't want a mentor, they don't know a mentor, they don't know anybody that they can trust that to help them. And so then they kind of push their family into that and it's hard because if your family's not on board now it's really awkward. Were your families both on board for this type of venture for you, or was there a little bit of chaos there, or how did that go?
For me, my family has always been in 100% support of everything I do. I think they really believe in me and they know that like if I'm going to put my mind to something that it's going to come to fruition. And so they
Sure,
were really supportive. And also my family, they're all entrepreneurs. They immigrated to this country when I was really young and they worked their way up to own their own business. And so for
sure.
them, it's like that's just their mindset. Like, hey, that's great. Go out there and do it yourself. You got this.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, isn't that something? I mean, like I was born and raised the exact opposite. Neither one of my parents had done anything on their own. They always worked for another company, not right or wrong, not good or bad. But boy, when went out on my own, they were like, it was like a fish out of water. They didn't know what to do. They don't know the questions asked. They don't know if they should be happy, scared, give me money. They didn't know what to do. So I love that piece. On your end, Dana, how was your family? Were they supportive as well?
They were very supportive. And similar to you, Dave, my parents, they always worked for someone else. So this was
Yeah,
very like new for them to hear about. But they were very supportive. And really both my parents laid the groundwork for kind of the two things that I operate, the lenses that I operate from. My dad has always taught me, like, if you work hard, if you just have a strong work ethic, then you can accomplish anything. And my mom has always been really relationship focused. And in
yeah,
this line of you have to have that strength of being able to connect with other people. So they laid the groundwork and they were just very, very supportive when I told them what I wanted to do. So
that's
I'm
awesome.
grateful.
Well, and it sounds just like a chameleon where you have to be, you're a people person part of the day you're a business person. So I totally see how your parents helped you with that chameleon piece. So as we fast forward, then now you have this group of people and now you have this word called culture. And it's funny because I think a lot of people listening, when we talk about culture, it kind of surprises them because I've heard people tell me we don't have culture here. Yeah, and it's just like every company in the world has culture. Now, it may not be one you want, it may not be positive, it may not be even something you're aware of, but every company has a culture. And so, like for you, how did you create that culture? Obviously, you had your values. Did you kind of wrap your values into your culture for the team?
Yeah. I mean, I would say culture is the most important thing for me. I've worked in a lot of environments, and when I was at my happiest and when I worked my hardest, it was when there was a good culture. And
Yeah,
so, day one and fast forward to today, it is one of the most important things to me is like really fostering that. And there's a lot of different things that we really build into our school to really facilitate that. I would say one of them is that we do weekly supervisions for all of our employees. And this is really dedicated time to focus on each individual. We can answer any questions, support them in any way that we can. And, that really has allowed us to learn each of our employees on a deeper level, as well as to really know what's going on in their lives, as well as what's going on in the
Yeah.
school.
Wow. And I think that's helpful because culture is a bunch of people getting together in a room, so to speak, and everybody brings something along with them. I'm always surprised when I hear people say, leave your personal life at home, leave that person in the car. And it's just like, how do you do that? I mean, I don't understand that. If somebody's having a bad day, you can't just shut that off and have a great day all of a sudden, unless you're good at faking, which I guess some people might be. But I'm guessing first of all, how many people are on your team now at right now at Wallace?
Full time, we're at about 30.
Okay. Awesome. So you have 30 people, 30 different people's ideas and thoughts and, pasts, all this stuff kind of comes in. And then you have some people's personalities that are really quiet and they'll go with the group wherever. And then there's others that are more boisterous and more, vocal with that. How do you work through that? Because I'm guessing there's a lot of people listening right now that this is one of the big reasons they don't want to start a company. I'm not good with people, they'll say, or I had a client that said jokingly, my company would be awesome if I didn't have a team and I didn't have customers, and it's like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't have a company, number one, but how do you like take 30 different perspectives and like make sure that everybody's in alignment? That's got to be really hard.
I think leadership sets the tone when it comes to that. It's like we work together in a way that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have both similar and different leadership styles, and I think that really creates a lot of investment with our team. I'm a servant leader through and through. I'm very
Okay.
relationship focused. I'm putting students, staff, the greater community before myself and thinking through how can I help this person reach their fullest potential rather than thinking about it in terms of outcomes, right?
Sure.
So I
Wow.
think that servant leadership style combined with Bia's leadership style, and she can talk a little bit more about that. I think when you take those two and you combine them, you have a team that's just really powerful, no matter what kind of personality that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah. Wow. What are your thoughts on that one, Rabia?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that our, leadership styles really complement each other well, and there's a lot of overlap. I have a hybrid of transformational with servant qualities. At the heart of it, for me, it's about inspiring and motivating people towards a bigger vision. But I also am really invested in people's well-being and helping them be their best selves.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for those of you that don't know, servant leadership, kind of the easiest way that I equate it is you take a org chart where the owner, manager, leader, whatever is on the top, and then it kind of is a pyramid. If you invert that where the owner is on the bottom and their main goal is to support people on their team, I think that when that is truly happening, teams get transformed, customers, students in this case, get served way better because that hierarchy is not as important. It's really about, are you being supported? Are you being, taken care of? And then that becomes the culture. So I feel like, if I'm serving you, you're gonna all of a sudden naturally want to serve me. And when people are serving each other, it's hard to have a culture, I think, that's really like, uncomfortable, unhealthy, toxic, whatever words are. And we're probably talking to somebody right now that is in a toxic environment. And so, do you guys ever have that where it kind of creeps in? Somebody might, even it's a blind spot for them. They might not even know they're doing it. But I'm guessing the bigger the group, the higher the likelihood of some toxic something coming in. And I'm just curious if you have identified that ever or how you work to make sure that toxic stays out of the workplace.
Yeah. I mean, our team right now is so aligned value-wise, and they're just so
Yeah,
strong. I don't think we have any of that on our team.
Yeah.
But we have had instances, to be honest, in the past where we maybe haven't had someone that is as aligned with our values.
yeah,
So I think it's important to identify those people and coach them out.
yeah. Wow. And I had a guy that was not in alignment with the company, and it was so bad. He was in a warehouse in one of the companies that I owned that we had to terminate him because it was so evident that he didn't like what he was doing. And he was really taken back for a minute, but after we explained it to him, there was kind of sense of relief
Mm.
because we're trying to go in this direction and he's always fighting that direction for whatever reason. And it felt like there was a release there, just kind of a relief of, wow, I don't have to do that. I can go find a company that I align better with. What words do you guys use to the, let's say you're in your fit interview process and you start talking about culture? Are there certain words that generally show up for you guys? As if somebody said, hey, what kind of culture do you have here? What words generally show up for you?
I would say some things that I hear a lot from our staff are collaborative, fun, hardworking.
Family.
Hmm.
It is a very, very much like a second home for a lot of
Yeah.
our staff. Everyone knows each other,
Yeah,
very on a personal level, and we know all of our staff on a personal level. I mean, between the two of us, we can tell you what is going on in the personal lives of every single one of our staff, and I think that's what really creates that emotional investment.
yeah,
We have a team that is completely invested in our mission, but then with that relationship focused piece, we also have a team that's emotionally invested,
sure.
and then in turn they're emotionally invested in each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I think about, we actually probably spend more time at work with with our coworkers, that 40 to 50 hours, whatever it is. That's more time together than you're with your family. So if I feel bad when I run into people that don't like their job, they're not happy with their company, and that's where, like, what we did for this individual, I'm like, I said, it's so obvious you don't want to be here. We want to let you go to go find something that you will enjoy. And it might be painful in the moment, but I think in the long run, it serves the purpose pretty well. So, um, I love that culture piece. Is that something that is regularly discussed in your regular meetings, your weekly meetings? Or because I run into people that they have the culture on the wall, but no one ever really believes it, agrees with it, they don't really practice it. And I'm assuming for you guys, it's a practice what you preach type of thing.
Oh, yeah. I would definitely say it's something that we regularly discuss in our meetings, like things that we can do to really foster that. And, also carving out time to have fun and to create these opportunities for us to connect. Like it's not all work. We also like to, create opportunities for play, so to speak, for our staff to connect and really those opportunities is what like helps propel things forward and where people can really get to know each other because it's not just, focused on what we're here to do, but we're here
Sure.
to connect.
That's awesome. And I think there's two, as we start to land the plane today, I think there's two primary types of people. And I'm curious what your thoughts are. There's the people that they do it, they have a job, they do it, they're okay with it. They're not necessarily looking for advancement. They're okay with whatever it is that they're doing. And then there seems to be a group that has like leadership potential. There's people that want to continue to build and grow. And again, neither one's better or worse. I'm just curious, if someone on your team has leadership potential, what do you do with that? Because I can see if you squash that because you don't have a spot for them, or they become like a threat to you, I can see that's where people start to get uncomfortable. So if you identified somebody on your team that had leadership potential, what would you do, or what would you suggest a listener do if they have somebody on their team with leadership potential? What have you ladies seen work?
The first I would say is to definitely not be threatened by that. I think it's so important to have like leaders, whether you have formal positions for them or not. There's a lot of different things that, I mean, that benefits an organization on so many levels, like truthfully. For us, that is something we thought about from day one because our goal is to eventually grow and to continue to grow.
Sure.
in a lot of different ways. And so, and for me, a value of mine is to really help my staff grow with us,
Okay.
rather than hiring outside. I've worked in organizations where that's their model, and it really doesn't work. You're constantly having a leader come in with a different mindset, a different goal, a different vision, or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
so I think it's so powerful to build people up within, and to, if they bring forth ideas, to really, encourage that. Like, all right, let's do it. How are you going to, execute this, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, and that's the collaboration that you talked about because, in a meeting, there are people that will talk less than others. It doesn't mean that they don't have great ideas. It's that they might be uncomfortable collaborating. They might be nervous talking in front of people. They might have low self-esteem. So all of these things, we as leaders, we have to identify that. And that's where I think it's changing. Leaders in the past were like, get back to work, shut up and get back to work type of thing. And now we have, people that need certain environments. They're motivated differently. That you just have to, like you ladies both said, you have to really know the individuals. And I think that's so incredibly strong of a great spot. And again, for the listener, if you want to grow a team, but you don't want to invest in your getting to know them, either find somebody that does, or like it sounds like Dana, you're a little more hands-on of that, and maybe I'm totally off on this, but it just from what you mentioned, it sounded like you would be a little more hands-on with the people, than Rabia is. Is that a safe assumption, or are you guys totally equal in that respect?
I think it depends on how you define hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think we're both able. When we say hands-on, it's like we've done the job before, right? We
Yeah.
started out as clinician and educator, and so on the ground
Sure.
level, we can be very hands-on. We can get
Mm-hmm.
into the mud and really work alongside our staff at the ground level. We know how to do the
Yeah.
job. But in terms of being hands-on, in terms of giving them autonomy and being able to know when to step back and really cultivate those leadership qualities and foster that, I think we do a good job of really knowing when to step back and then when to get more involved.
Sure. That's great. And I think that's again, I had a business partner back in the day and he was pretty hands off. And so I ran it pretty much how I wanted, which was great. But the problem was that, like I like how you both have different strengths that you bring to the table, and the team probably knows that. A weird question that just popped into my head before I ask you one more, and then I'll let you go. But like, do you ever get it where it's like they try to pit one against the other, mom versus dad type of thing? And again, no offense to the team, and if you don't want to answer it, I totally get it. But I run into this kind of a lot in training and coaching businesses that, one person will be kind of pitted against another if there's two partners in that. They don't like the answer they got from mom, so they're going to go to dad, so to speak. Do you get that much, or how do you make sure that that doesn't happen at Wallace?
I don't think we've ever gotten that. That's a great
No.
question that I've never thought
Wow.
about because it's never come up.
Oh
We
my
do not
gosh.
get that from our team. And I think a lot of it has to do with just how we operate as a team.
Yeah.
If there is ever any kind of situation comes up that requires discussion behind closed doors, we have that discussion and then we come out with a united front that we all feel good about. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is that our team they're not privy to those conversations if we're not in agreement with something.
Sure.
And again,
Yeah.
any kind of like disagreement, and I even hate to call it that.
Yeah.
It's just lack of a better term, but any kind of disagreement, we always come back to the values. So we're never like not aligned with any of the
Yeah.
decisions we make.
Yeah.
But I think our team knows that, and no, we've never had that.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I'll send a couple your way so you can experience that. Just kidding. So no, two questions. I'm gonna let you go. So we always ask a tip of the day with both of you. We'll give each of you the opportunity to share what your tip of the day would be today, whether it's something we already covered or something that's, we haven't yet shared. But I'll start with you, Dana. What would your tip of the day be today?
My tip of the day would be to invest in your people as people, not just as professionals. I think people appreciate that professional investment, but to invest in them as people first is so crucial. We have a holiday party every year for our staff. It's a beautiful event. We invite everyone, and we also invite all of their partners. And so
Mhm.
last year we had an amazing turnout. And so I really wanted to curate a speech that spoke not only to our staff, but also to their partners that really might not really fully understand what we do every day, but that support them in it anyway.
Sure.
And so I wanted to capture that. And I ended up interviewing a student in preparation for this speech. And he was a student that pretty much wasn't coming out of his room initially, had very poor attendance, and now he's reintegrating back to his home district successfully.
Mm,
I pulled him and I asked him, what worked for you? Because you've taken full advantage of the program. I want to know what clicked, like what made you
sure.
want to come to school? And he said, the staff are happy. That was the first thing he said. And it was so simple. And I
Yeah.
kind of already knew that, but it was just this beautiful connection that was made. And I
Yeah.
was like, that makes perfect sense. And he went on to say, I know every day when I come in, the staff are happy and it makes the students happy. And it's so true. The staff set the tone and really the
Wow.
leadership set the tone for the staff. So I would say invest in your people on a personal level.
What a great thing. That's awesome. Rabia, what about you?
Yeah, so my tip is to really focus on culture and create opportunities for staff to connect. Something that's really important for me is that we do carve out that time to really make sure that we have it set aside so that we can do, all types of activities. Some of them are meaningful, like staff self-care. We do yoga, meditation, or sound baths, to name a few. And some of
Yeah.
them are silly games, like we've played hide and seek on our school campus. And let me tell you, people might say, oh, we're playing hide and seek, but as soon as they get into it, it really is fun to just get back to your roots, get
Oh,
into your
yeah.
inner child, so to speak, and just have fun. And those are some of my favorite memories. So yeah, so
That's
that's my tip.
awesome.
And I really think that is the secret to our success.
Well, and I think both of you are saying it in the same way that it's people first in this. And, it's so hard to come into a company that's not people first, that's, stock price first or profit first or systems first or employee handbook first, whatever it is that people put in place of people. I think that most companies that do that are not successful long term because you just kind of churn through all the people that who wants to work there if that's all that matters. If you're just a number or you're just, and it's kind of like joining the military and all they ever call you is by your last name. And, I get it and totally get that's military, it's not a company. I just wish that there were more people like you both that were thinking people first. And, I think small businesses would be a lot more fun. They'd be a lot more profitable. And your team would be a lot more engaged because Gallup says 2 out of 3 people in the US workforce are not engaged in their jobs right now, which is really hard to imagine that, a team of 10, 6 or 7 people are not engaged in what they're doing. They say, hey, this ain't my job. They're trying to get out of stuff rather than get into stuff. So I love those 2 tips. I could talk to you ladies all day, but I know you got to get back to your schoolwork here. So, if people want to connect with Wallace Academy, if they're interested in learning more about some of the things that we shared today, what's the best way for people to connect with you both?
You can go to wallaceacademy.net. And then we have our emails listed there as well
Mhm.
if you want to connect with us directly.
Yeah, I saw that and your phone numbers. It's like, wow, you leave nothing hidden. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I can call you guys any time of the day or night. So Wallace Academy, that's WALLACE Academy.net. And you are located in the greater Chicago area, correct?
Yes, we're in Hoffman Estates.
So if somebody outside of, sorry, one more question I lied to you. If somebody outside of your area, can you Zoom in? Can you do that, or do you have to be brick and mortar in this situation for a student?
It could be either. So we can accept students that are up to an hour away. And then
Okay.
some of those students do travel into the brick and mortar building, and then some are engaging in that remote education programming.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm hoping that somebody listening today has gotten either gained some confidence about their idea. Maybe it even increased their questions, which is totally fine as well. And if you want to connect with Dana or Rabia, please reach out to them. They'd be happy to help asking any education related questions. I'm sure they'd share with you about their journey. If there's something that you had a question that I didn't get to, but we talked about growth, we talked about leadership styles, we talked about values, we talked about culture. So these are all pieces that really need to be, worked on if you're going to have a successful venture like Wallace Academy is. So thanks both of you for hanging out with me, carving out part of your busy school day to inform us on what's going on at Wallace. And I can't wait to keep learning from you and watching, because I want to see what happens when you get to your 75 students, because that's going to be like, oh my gosh, what do we do next? So maybe there'll be a part two to this someday. But thank you so much for sharing your leadership thoughts with us, and how you both started a company and grew it and now are successfully running it. So thanks so much. And the listener appreciates it. And again, please, rather than jump into your next podcast or rather than jump into your next activity, just take a minute and just do that personally. If you own a company, just do that inventory. How's my growth? How am I treating my team? How is my culture? And again, if you have questions, reach out to both of these ladies, reach out to us, or ask your team, how in the world do they feel like they're being treated? That's probably the scariest way to do it, because you're afraid of the answer. It's much better to live in ignorance sometimes, but it's going to help you to be able to improve your culture and your team. So thanks, Dana. Thanks, Rabia, for hanging out with me. And I'm sure we will talk again.
All right. Thanks for having us,
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.